Space Marine 2 came out 13 years after the release of Space Marine 1, and while that might feel like a long time to us, Titus actually had a longer time waiting to see what was going to happen to him. In universe, he had to wait 2 centuries. That's 200 years to finally get called back from the Death Watch, have his name cleared, and get to start the events of Space Marine 2. Personally, I felt like Space Marine 2 was shorter than 1, though according to howlongtobeat.com, the games actually have similar lengths. They're within 1 or 2 hours of each other to complete the main game. Maybe I just took a really long time to beat Space Marine 1, or I played through it multiple times, so I felt like it was longer in my memory. But to make up for this for Space Marine 2, it has multiplayer. There's 6 co-op missions that you get to play. So that means you and 2 buddies get to go on a 3-man Space Marine squad. You guys have different weapons, different loadouts, different classes with different ultimate abilities that you can use while completing these co-op missions. You also can have 2 buddies play as the characters Chiron and Gadriel in the campaign, which is fully cooperative, which I think is a really cool feature which we didn't have in Space Marine 1. Now, Space Marine 2 is developed by Saber Interactive. They made another game called World War Z, and I'll get into that a little bit later. But the roadmap for Space Marine 2 shows that they're going to release more PvE missions and a Horde mode. And Horde mode in World War Z was a ton of fun, so I'm actually really excited to see what the future patches for the game are going to bring. But in the meantime, if you're hungry for more gameplay similar to Space Marine 2, I wanted to give you a couple of suggestions that you could go after to kind of scratch that itch if you've played through the cooperative missions too many times and you've beaten the game on the highest difficulty and you don't feel like that there's a whole lot to get out of Space Marine 2 just yet. Like I mentioned earlier, Saber Interactive made a game called World War Z, which seems to take more after the movie than the book. I haven't seen the movie, but you get to go to different locations around the world and see how they're dealing with the zombie outbreak. This is a cooperative zombie shooter game, so if you played like Left 4 Dead or any other game like that, Killing Floor, etc., this is a game where you're running around trying to get from point A to point B, doing objectives along the way, and you're shooting a lot of zombies and meleeing a lot of zombies. Now, World War Z has some cool elements to it where you get to pick a class. The class has different perks and abilities that you get to level up as you play the class more often. Similarly, the weapons level up the more that you use them too. You'll see this system already in the Space Marine 2 cooperative mode, where you're spending coins to unlock perks and you're spending coins to level up the weapons. And the coins you, of course, earn by completing missions. So I feel like because Saber Interactive made Space Marine 2, that looking at some of their previous titles, World War Z is a great one to look at, especially if you want to see where they started from and how far they've come going from World War Z to Space Marine 2. Also, the Horde mode in World War Z is a ton of fun, so if you want to get a little bit of sampling of what a Horde mode might be like in Space Marine 2, you can check it out there. And World War Z is a 5-year-old game at this point. Right now, it's $30 on Steam, and this is full price for it, so it might even go on sale, and you could probably pick it up for a better deal than that. Now, if you like the 40K universe and you want to play another game that's in that same setting, then I would recommend Darktide to you. Developed by Fat Shark, who made Vermintide and Vermintide 2, this game is the 40K version of that. So instead of fantasy and using more melee weapons and occasionally a bow or a flintlock pistol, we actually have las guns and auto guns and grenade launchers and things like that. You're still in the 40K universe, you're still fighting Chaos, but this time you're fighting agents of Nurgle. You're just a regular human that has a few abilities, or you can be a big beefy Ogren, but you're not quite as badass as a Space Marine, but you're a badass in your own right in this game. Now, if you've played this game in the past and written it off, I would recommend getting into it again. We have a talent point system now that is very in-depth and a lot of fun. Basically, each class now has 3 trees that they can determine how they want to play, but you're not restricted to one whole tree in terms of play styles. So you can blend different abilities, different keystones, different talent points to find different nodes and niches and however you want to play the game. Also, recently we just got the unlocked and unloaded patch, so now the weapons are way less RNG than they used to. So now the more you use a weapon, the more you level it up, and then you can just pick what blessings you have for the weapon and apply it to the weapon. You don't have to re-roll it. You don't have to find it in the shop and sacrifice it to earn the blessing like you had to do in the past. Just use the weapon, level it up naturally, and then you can use the blessing as you want. You can also re-roll perks. Well, it's not even a re-roll anymore. You can just pick whatever perks you want on the weapon now too. So in the past of that RNG of going to the auction house and waiting an hour for the new shops to show up and then logging off because nothing good was there. Now you can actually just log in, pick a weapon that you like, pick the blessings and perks, and get back to playing the game. So it's come a long way in 2 years, which is kind of silly that they had to relearn how to make Vermintide 2, because I feel like a lot of these features had to be developed into Vermintide. It wasn't good when it first came out, and it took a few years of development to get to where it's at. And it felt like Fat Shark just had to relearn it again anyway. But hey, we're in a really good spot. I haven't been able to put Darktide down since the latest patch. I've been spending my time just collecting the achievements. They added hundreds of achievements to go after, and now I'm trying to master every weapon that I have for every class. Darktide was released at $40. So, and it's still at $40 since it's only a 2-year-old game, but this is less than the AAA cost of a $60 or $70 game. And if you have Game Pass for Xbox, it's on Game Pass, so I'd recommend checking it out. And again, if you've played it in the past, giving it another look. Lastly, if you want something that has some semblance of a story where you can measure progression by how close you get to the final mission, then I think Earth Defense Force 6 might be the right game for you. The story is a little bit silly and a little bit dark at times, but it doesn't take itself too seriously. But I think it's told better than World War Z, which just loosely follows scenes from the movie, and Darktide having no story outside of a smattering of cutscenes and NPC dialogue. You have 4 classes available to you, each with their own strengths and weaknesses and their own arsenal of weapons and gadgets. The game is also presented in the third person, just like Space Marine 2, so if you prefer that camera angle to the first person in World War Z and Darktide, then this game might be for you as well. The power fantasy in this game is being able to annihilate waves of giant bugs and robots, and then eventually you'll turn and focus your firepower on large boss monsters in later missions. EDF came out this year and sits at $60. They recently removed the Epic Game Store account requirement for playing on the PC, so that might help tilt you into playing this, because I know a lot of people are upset that this game, just like Helldivers 2, had a third-party account integration that wasn't disclosed at the time of sale, and the developers recognized that people were rightly upset about this and removed the requirement. So you no longer need the Epic Game Store. And there you have it, 3 game recommendations to scratch your Space Marine 2 itch while you wait for new content to come out, or if you're looking for something just a little bit different, but still along the same vein of gameplay style. If you made it this far into the video, thank you so much for watching. I would like to invite you to like the video, leave a comment, and subscribe to the channel. I'm trying to get back into making regular videos, but I do stream 3 days a week, so I would love to see you in the chat in the next stream.